Hello and welcome back. In the last devotional video, we talked about this idea of heaven and how heaven needs to be real in our hearts. It needs to be something that we know is true, something that is so real that it works backwards, you might say, and it affects how we live. It needs to be our goal, our destination. And you can't separate that from everything else that Jesus is saying here in Luke chapter 12. In other words, if you just want to pick up this book and say, well, I need some tips on how to deal with fear, worry, and anxiety, but I don't want all that heaven stuff and all the God stuff. I'm just going to try to glean what I can, from Jesus's wisdom. It won't work because God the Father, as our Father who takes care of us, and the reality of heaven are woven throughout this whole section here. And so that you can't just dispose of that and maintain the power, the transforming power of this word to deal with your fear, worry, and anxiety. It won't work. It has to be part of that. And Jesus makes it crystal clear at the end of this section when he says, sell your possessions and give to the needy. Provide yourselves with money bags that do not grow old, with a treasure in the heavens that does not fail, where no thief approaches and no moth destroys. And so Jesus brings up this idea of heaven, and he says, look, I'm inviting you to store your possessions in a place where they cannot be damaged, they cannot be diminished. And if you do that, you won't be so anxious about losing them. You can trust them to God and say, well, I've got them in a safe place, and the most valuable things I have are not here in this world. They're out of the reach of the frailty and the insecurity and the instability of this world. And so Jesus invites us to do that. But notice what he says at the very end of this section. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Now this is really the key to this. How do you deal with fear, worry, and anxiety? It has to do with where your heart is. Now this makes perfect sense. If my heart is wrapped up and tied up in something here that's fragile, something that's temporary, something that, as he says here, that it can fail, that a thief can steal it, moths can destroy it, it can decompose, it can diminish in any way. If my heart is really wrapped up in something that's not permanent, then my heart is going to go up and down as these things diminish and as they rise. And so if I'm doing well in this world, if I'm making good money, whatever my heart is set on, if things are going well, my heart's going to go up, right? And I'm going to feel pretty good. But then when those things fail and they crash, my heart's going to go down. And so I'm constantly going up and down. Do you feel that way? And I'm constantly struck with worry and fear. As I'm going up, I'm like, well, this is wonderful, but will it last? Will this job give me what I need? Will it make me feel secure? Will this relationship with this person do that? Will my family, will my children and how they're doing, will this, give me what I'm finally looking for? And then, of course, this life disappoints us. Things happen that we don't account, we can't predict, and all of a sudden our hearts are going down again. And so what Jesus wants to do is anchor our hearts to something that is steady, something that can never diminish. He wants to stabilize us so that we're not always being pulled around with fear and worry and anxiety about these things. And so in order to do that, he says, I want you to set your heart on heaven. He says, because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So put your treasures in heaven. Live as though heaven is real. Instead of pulling to yourself, give it away. Send it on before you. Put it in a place where it's safe. And as you grow older, your heart will gradually transfer its affections and its desires and its the things that it sets itself on. And remember, your heart is you. It's the main you. It's your core. It's your motivational headquarters. And so as you live out the kingdom, as the Father gives you the kingdom and he enables you to live as a kingdom subject, knowing that he's in control, knowing that he will take care of you, freeing you up to be able to be more outward oriented and to give, that suddenly, gradually, your heart is going to become more stable. because your treasure is going to be located in a totally different place. It's going to be not here in the fragile things of this world, but it's going to be in heaven. And it's going to be fastened and fixed upon something that cannot be diminished, cannot fail, that God preserves for you. So that's the essence of Jesus' teaching here, is that heaven must be real to you, and your treasure must be there in order for your heart to follow and attach itself to something that cannot be moved or disturbed. Now, that's the essence of Jesus' teaching. So in the devotions to come, again, I want to flesh this out. I want to keep focusing on this because it's so important. And so I'm going to give you an illustration next time just to help us to see how that works. And so I hope you tune in. Thanks.